And David, welcome to the podcast. Tell folks a little bit about what you do with WordPress and in general.
Yeah, so I'm David Yarde, one of those people with the silent E's in their names. I'm a designer in this whole development space of WordPress, but I'm also a developer that, helps translate design as well. I run a brand development and strategy firm with a partner of mine, and we do some pretty amazing things. We help people figure out how to connect their ideas to the tech space and how to grow them, how to leverage WordPress, but more importantly, how to be lovable at their core. So, yeah, it's been a pretty fun run over the past 15, 16, actually, no, take that back, 17 plus years. Time is flying. I can't believe it. So, yeah, yeah.
Wow, yeah, it's a long time to have been in the game. So I'm lucky to get to talk to you today. I get to talk to someone who has more experience than I do in a lot of this stuff. And I know that your brand stands for a lot of love because I was checking out the website and it evokes that for me. And I scroll to the bottom, and in the footer it has that made with the heart emoji. So I always like that when people have that in their footer. So I know you care deeply about it. Yeah, at the intersection of design and development too, which is when I was reading, just reviewing quickly the notes before we recorded here, I was like, oh, that's such an interesting thing to talk about, because I feel like most people in the WordPress space, and probably most people in tech space, they'd either consider themselves like a designer or a developer, and to have those skill sets cross over is, I think, pretty rare. I think most people would consider their strengths to be in one or the other, but you kind of live there in the middle. I'd love to hear, like, kind of, did you start on design and move more into development, or the other way around? How did you find yourself at the intersection of those two?
This is a good question. I would say MySpace is probably like the smorgasbord for this because it's like, oh, I could design a cute little cool layout or whatever, and then I could, make it interactive. Um, and so that's kind of where I guess the interest in being able to do this professionally started. But before then, I would definitely say, surprisingly enough, it just started with writing. I used to write a lot of poetry when I was younger. I used to write a lot about just different things I wanted to see happen. And after a while, it became a thing where, writing became sketching, and then sketching became kind of like, oh, maybe this could be a fun game or like a story or whatever. And then I learned that, what I was doing was very close to wireframing. And so it was kind of like, oh, this is just basically storytelling in a different medium. And so, yeah, that writing background just kind of fueled a lot of it. You're writing interactions for a website, you're writing transitions, you're writing all different sorts of things. And so, yeah, it became a lot more fun after that MySpace experience. And then from there, I pretty much focused heavily on design. There were a few years, I want to say 4 or 5 years, where that's all I did. Didn't really care for development. It was cool. I liked what I could do with it. But at the time, I felt like in order for me to understand that, I really had to understand design a lot better. I had to understand what it was that I was going to be building versus just hopping in and like building it. And then things happened by the time I graduated, I want to say high school. I ended up in this odd position where it was like, oh, look, there's a recession. What are you going to do? You're going into the job force, right? You're trying to get into college, trying to do all these things. So college wasn't an option for me. And I decided that if I'm going to survive, I'm going to have, some serious skills. And people were like, hey, you design, you should do this, trying to find a job as a designer. Good luck. They're a lot harder than development jobs. And so I realized that maybe I should lean a lot more into the development side of things. And so that's what I did. Ended up getting a job at an advertising agency, worked for like an insurance marketing startup. I just threw myself into those areas where I had no choice but to learn how to swim as a developer. And it paid off because I ended up becoming like a front end developer, full stack developer, you know, quote unquote full stack designer, which is basically just user experience person on steroids. Um, and I got to work on cool projects, right? I got to literally build the online dictionary for Merriam-Webster, and I'm like, wow, who would have thought, right? Because it's a humble beginning. You don't realize like these things could happen on that journey, and so like now, legit, I am super thankful. Like we were talking earlier about how the WordPress community is so like loving and like pulling together. But I gotta say, there's just some outstanding people in this community that like the days where I literally felt like giving up, I got a call from them or they told me to, come over, let's have a chat, let's take a walk, let's do something. Um, yeah, let me stop because I usually don't cry, but this is probably one of those times I actually will. Um, yeah, it's been great to be a part of this community. Is what I'm just gonna end that little part with.
Yeah. I love that feel about the community, man. I feel like I remember finding the community for the first time too. Like I was, doing agency work and some marketing and like SEO stuff, and I used WordPress for sites I was building, and I remember the day that I realized there's like a community around it. Like it's not just like this piece of software. Like there are people that like are WordPress people, and like I can go to this WordCamp and going to my first like WordCamp Lancaster, and it's being
Yep.
like, wow, this is like I legit would agree with you. I think you'd agree. I would say like it did change my life. It changed the trajectory of what I wanted to do because instead of just maybe using WordPress for some of the project I was doing, I was like, I want to like be a part of this community. I want to be a WordPress community member. I want to be part of this, something bigger than myself. But that also, man, it like makes me so happy because everyone's so positive and energizing and everyone wants to help each other. Like really is an open, so like that open source feeling like really is supported by the community. So I'm totally with you, man. I'll try not to make you cry on the podcast, but I can't promise anything because the WordPress community is super awesome. The design work, it sounds like
If it happens, we just go with it.
yeah, exactly. It sounds like the design stuff, some of the projects you worked on, you really just kind of like dived into these these new projects and just kind of took opportunities as they were given to you. I just had Joe Simpson on the podcast yesterday, and we talked a lot about taking opportunities as learning experiences, and I think this would reflect that a little bit. Like, I guess my question would be kind of, did you have like intense passions behind the actual like industries those things were in, like the insurance stuff? Like when people hear that, they're like, well, it doesn't sound like the sexiest kind of project to work on, but it's clearly a learning opportunity, and clearly you can still do some storytelling and some user experience and good design work, even if it's not in quote unquote the sexiest industry. I just wanted to know if you had a connection with those industries
Oh
before, or
yeah.
whether you were really seeing it as like, I just want to try. I want the opportunity, and I know I can do something regardless of if I love this area.
I like that question. In the beginning, I don't think I really had a passion for a lot of the stuff that I worked on. Outside of the fact that it got me to work on either design or code. Um, I was very ethical because like I didn't really have the whole thing. Like didn't really care for alcohol brands, didn't really care for like tobacco brands. Um, yeah, insurance isn't like the most fun or attractive thing. But once you start digging into, let's say, high risk insurance, or you start digging into like the more nuanced insurance levels, and you realize like here's a difference that it can actually make in somebody's life, or this agency was able to protect this community, because a lot of those smaller insurance agents, they're very community driven. Like they have to get to know their community, they have to get to know the people around them that they're selling policies to, they have to be very intimate in some ways with them. And so, kind of being in that industry at the time, it was a startup. I was employee number two. I got the opportunity in my very early 20s to build out a team, to set processes, to, set project and product roadmaps, and to take a company from what I believe at the time was like a $50,000 investment to be valued in the millions, and then be rolled into a larger company and then packaged and sold for a good chunk of millions. Even though I didn't get anything from that, except for the experience, um, I think I wouldn't do it differently. It sounds strange, but I wouldn't do it differently. Um, because a lot of other places you go and you end up working, whether you're a designer or developer, you have this whole weird pecking order that happens. And the opportunity to learn is shrouded a lot more in don't mess up, don't screw up, don't push bad code, don't write bad code. And in this environment, it was like, all right, we have, 3 months where we can make as many failures as possible. But at the end of those 3 months, we need to have something that is stable that we can work with, that we can push forward. And yeah, 2 years later, we had a system that was basically pushing out sites within 2 weeks of onboarding a client. Um, capturing all their details, their product lines, working like every department was communicating from that initial meeting. And yeah, I try to keep those principles going as time went on. And I ended up other places that weren't startups, but they still allowed that room for not necessarily failing, but growing and learning. And so, yeah, I would say anything that I saw that came up, if I had 65% of the skill set for it, 50% of the skill set for it, like, let me try this, right? Or let me start with what I solidly know. And then, all right, cool. I'm confident there. How does that work? Can I try that out? Um, and then also being lucky to just have people who are like, oh, I'll help you figure this out, or I'll be a mentor to you. But then I would say the harder parts were definitely when I started building out Sevenality. When we came up with the idea and we decided that this is the thing that we wanted to do, it, of course, was also right at the time when the major recession was happening in 2008. And so it's like we were building a company and working full time. So it's like trying to garner as much experience as possible, because ultimately I wanted to work for myself and make that transition. And so, yeah, I mean, experience is there when you see something, when you like have an idea for something that you really want to do. You're not sure how to fully complete it. Just start. Like most times, the questions that we're trying to answer at a standstill can only be answered when we're in motion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I actually I hadn't heard it put exactly that way, but I totally agree with that sentiment. The learning a lot of times can't come from a static position. Maybe some of like the theory and like quote unquote best practices can, but to actually learn how to be successful in the actual thing that you're doing, you have to be like doing stuff. You have to be active. There has to be some sort of kinetic energy going because like that movement actually teaches you whether you get something right or get something wrong. That's going to always teach you. So I like that I'm going to quote you on that. I'm going to steal that quote and use it because I think that was good. So sevenality.com is your company and so the website that you're running. I think you mentioned that you started Sevenality while you were working full time somewhere else, and so I'd love to hear a little bit about that transition because I think there are a lot of people who may be working a full time
Ooh.
job somewhere and are thinking about starting their own job, and I think a lot of people think like, okay, the only way to do that is I gotta quit my job and then I gotta go hustle culture and I gotta like get it figured out when with by sacrificing the paycheck I was making. I'd love to know what your experience was. Did you do that or were you kind of working on a little bit on the side on Sevenality while you were working somewhere else?
So you're gonna love this one. I did the absolute do not ever do this if you're starting a business. Um,
Perfect. This is great to talk about because this is a great conversation.
yeah, so I don't think I've even publicly gone into this story too much. So I was working for that startup for a while. And a few years after that, I was like, I really hate it here. Seminary was pretty early. We're starting to gain traction, and we were landing a pretty big client at the time. And I was like, all right, I'm going to quit and I'm going to work solely on this client. Bad idea. Horrible idea. Number one, they decided that they weren't going to sign the contract and do all of that stuff immediately, right? It was probably another 2 months after that whole thing. I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't have a leads pipeline. I just thought that, I am so good at what I do, people are going to instantly see it and want to work with me. Yeah, yeah. I failed horribly. Okay, like when I tell you that was the worst face plant situation ever, and I still didn't learn from it. I did that probably two more times. Um, Solely because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna burn all the boats and I'm gonna do this. This is what these books say you should do: burn the boats and go all in. Yeah, no, no, no. So how I eventually made the transition a lot more with my sanity intact. Um, I decided that Sevenality really needs a purpose, right? At that point, it was just kind of like a cool name. We did design projects, we did web projects. And I think this is where the branding part of me really started to bubble up, where I realized naturally I was like starving this side off because I just wanted to be technical. I wanted to do the task, I wanted to knock everything out. But the strategy behind it matters just as much, right? And so diving in, I was like, what does Sevenality really mean? What does it stand for? And we would get questions about it, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, we're just a design firm, totality, da da da. Da. And then one day it hit me. What we actually do for people, based on the reviews and everything, is we help them create an actual brand ecosystem, one that has the design components, the messaging, the strategy, and everything that's self sustaining, similar to the story of creation. Not that awesome, but similar. And so we're like, all right, this actually works. This is who we are, and this is what we're trying to do. And it became a lot easier to really address problems, help and bring solutions about. But then to really get that transition going, I was like, well, how are we showing up? And that's when we kind of like really doubled down on giving back to the WordPress community. Um, because when we started out, we were a community-based business. We wanted to help businesses brand themselves better in the midst of a recession. But then, of course, survival kicks in, and you forget about that. So we got back to that core, got a lot more involved in the WordPress community, started helping organize our local meetup, um, starting helping organize even virtual meetups. It happened really quickly. I find that in this community, the moment you signal that you want to be a part of something and help, people will find places to like quickly put you. Um, and so yeah, it just kept going. And then after a while, they were like, "Oh, you should start speaking." And I'm like, "You sure? Like, I'm an introvert. I'm okay where I'm at. I'm okay doing all of this behind the scenes stuff over here. Why are you gonna put me into that position?" And then I gave my first talk, and I was like, "Okay, this is terrifying." And then I got invited to do another one, and I was like, "Oh no, this is big bad, right? Like, what happens from here? Like, what happens if I mess up?" And I'll never forget. It was a conversation with David Bissett from WordCamp Miami, and he said to me, he was like, don't overthink it. Like when you're submitting a talk or when you're submitting anything, just submit, two or three ideas that you want to talk about. Because if you submit just one, that lessens your chance of being accepted, right? But if you submit two or three, here are the things that you probably will be accepted more likely for. And when you do get accepted for one, now you can just hone in on that one topic, right? And that was a life-changing piece of advice because I was like, wow, I don't have to try and be something that I'm not. I don't have to try and talk about things that I don't really know about just to show that I'm a professional. I can talk about the things that I see, the gaps that I'm trying to fill, and how they help people. And so, yeah, it became a pretty cool thing in kind of sharing, hey, as a designer, as a project manager, as a UX guy in this space, there's some cool things that we could do that, we could probably help the world with a lot more. Um, and yeah, I haven't looked back and I have no regrets. And I'm excited to see where things go.
Yeah, cool, man. I'd be interested to hear what you would say to other folks who would consider themselves introverts and kind of want to get more into the community. Maybe they want to give more talks. And it sounds like it was scary for you. I think honestly, even for extroverts, people who enjoy being in front of people or stuff, it's giving your first WordCamp talk or talk in front of an audience is always a little nerve wracking. So if there's someone listening out there who's consider themselves a little bit more introverted and maybe wants to try to give a talk somewhere, you have any advice for them, or maybe like how they can do it successfully?
Yes. Have a lot of conversations with yourself first. People will think that you're crazy, but who cares? Um, how you communicate with yourself first is going to determine how you communicate with the world. And if you keep saying to yourself, I can't do this, it's overwhelming, it's too much, you don't even begin to try, right? But if you take like the little engine that could approach, where it's like, I think I can, I know I can, um, it becomes a lot easier because now you're like doing that little incremental change. And you're just like, all right, I think I can do this. I can, give a talk about this plugin that I love, or I can give a talk about this design hack that I found. And it doesn't have to be extremely long, right? A lot of meetups, especially now in this virtual space, have little flash talks that you could give, lightning round talks that you could do, or you could even
Yeah.
open up your phone and record that video, talk about it, and don't post it. Just do it so you get comfortable with it. I mean, I took courses online for public speaking. I took little Toastmaster events. I hated those. Um, and then after a while, I would just imagine myself talking to a friend. And it became a whole lot easier after that because it was like, all right, I'm sharing with my friend in the space about this thing. We're having a deep conversation about it. What are some questions that are going to come up? And then from there, just jump in. Whether it's one meetup, whether it's a little sidebar at the meetup, whether it's a happiness bar somewhere online, virtually, offline, wherever. Start building up that experience with connecting with people, with just talking with them, with sharing, what you've been through, your expertise, and the things that you wish people don't have to learn the hard way, and becomes a whole lot easier. But if you try to play to that side of, oh, this professional is sharing this thing this way, and I need to talk about this, you're gonna get overwhelmed and not even try. It will knock you out.
Yeah, I love that advice a lot.
So start small.
Yeah, I think I might add on to that by saying, like, as someone who myself is a pretty seasoned speaker, and you yourself at this point, you've given talks as well. Like those of us who have lots of WordPress experience, I think there's kind of this thought that like those are the people that should be giving um, talks, and they should be giving their experience back to the WordPress community. But I've actually found when I go to talks, first time talks, or people who haven't done a lot of speaking or who are newer to the WordPress community, I learn so much really important stuff that like come from someone who's maybe more of a beginner, or like giving a talk that maybe I haven't heard about before. Because I, as someone who's experienced in WordPress in the community, like it's almost like I know too much, like I'm too high level, like I need
Analysis
to like
paralysis.
relearn some of the basics and beginner stuff. Totally. And so I really value talks from people who maybe haven't given a lot of WordCamp talks before, who are newer to the space. Like your content is so important for everybody in the WordPress space, because we need fresh ideas. We need new people thinking about how to do things differently. We need honestly like the next generation of WordPress folks to like come in and start giving talks, and it always starts with the first one. And so if people are listening who are thinking about starting that, like this would definitely be like a your content is valuable, even if it's a first time talk or beginner content.
And I think I enjoy those talks a lot more as well because of their passion. Because they're not necessarily jaded or cynical about, oh, well, we've been doing it this way.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh wow, like look at what I sat down and I figured, and like even problems that, more seasoned people will literally curse their computer and walk away from. They'll be like, oh, this is what I did, this is how I figured it out. And you're like, wow, I wish I had that excitement again. And then you start to like think back, when did I lose
Yeah.
it? Right? And then you're like, oh, and then so you want to start
Nice.
going again and, connecting and helping. And so, yeah, I mean, it keeps community going. So definitely, if you feel like you can or you never had, please make 2021 the year you do your first talk.
Yeah, agreed. And it's a digital year, all digital year. So you don't have to travel and truly get up in front of people. You have a digital audience, which I think makes it a little less stressful. Maybe, I don't know about that. Maybe some people will still feel stressed being on a camera in front of a lot of people, but I think literally seeing, 100 eyeballs on you is definitely, that was stressful to me the first time I gave a talk. So,
Different experience.
yes, for sure. I'd love to dive a little bit more into the work you're doing at Sevenality, because you mentioned before. I'm going to kind of like loop this back into when you started Sevenality. You mentioned one of the mistakes you made, or one of the challenges you had to overcome was you didn't really have like a lead acquisition channel. You didn't know how to like get new customers, or you didn't have that like those funnels set up yet and running so that you were attracting new customers and getting new customers. Now, 10 years later or a little bit more, in 2020, how has that evolved through the growing of Sevenalities? How do you attract new customers? How do new customers find you, or new clients, however you
So I would
talk about who
say
you work
at
with?
this point, it's a smorgasbord of like my first 3 or 4 failures, right? So I took the failure from actually predating all of that, like design and development stuff. I tried to do a clothing line, and that failed, which is pretty cool. But the thing that I learned from that I pulled into Sevenality was awareness is key. Like if you feel as if people don't know you exist, they probably don't, right? Um, Promo yourself with like that confidence. Like this is a horrible example, but look at a crackhead, right? If you ever seen one on the side of the street, they do not care, right? They have a mission, and they're going to let everybody know about that mission, right? And I feel if you look at the opposite side of like good people, we we talk about good, but when it comes to like our opponents, they go the full distance of like converting people, of like putting things out there, setting up, institutions around them. Meanwhile, us good people are kind of looking at it like, oh, this is what we believe, our values will guide us. No, 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 no. Right? So awareness is key. If you people aren't aware that this exists, if they aren't aware that this boundary is there, they're going to keep crossing it, right? They're going to ignore it. They're going to, do whatever. And so taking that into Sevenality, we realized that awareness for what we do goes beyond just, oh, we could design your logo or your website. In most cases, if I could, I would actually avoid designing people's websites simply because what really needs to be designed is the processes behind the business, is how you communicate, your products and services. When you get to the website or your logo, that's just the expression of the medium of what was actually designed. Um, and so when you think back and look at a lot of great companies, they realize that this awareness thing was also key. Nike, like they stick in your head with that, just do it. You're not buying shoes, but now you're thinking about action, you're thinking about sports, you're thinking about fitness, that kind of a thing. And so that's the approach that we took with, really building out and creating lead pipelines, um, and breaking it down into things that we can actually track and measure. So you have referrals. Okay, well, what type of referrals are they? You can't really grow a business on referral like traffic or stuff like that. But what you can do is make it a lot easier for people to do referrals to you, right? Or send referrals your way. Um, and then if they do send it your way, how do you take care of them so they're more likely to send another referral back to you, right? And of course, this depends on the industry you're in because if you're working with lawyers or financial people, there are certain things you can't do in terms of giving them, let's say a referral finder's fee or whatever. Um, and so navigating a lot of those things kind of determines some of the industries we really wanted to be in as well. Going back to that earlier question about passion, we realized like for us, it was about education, connecting people to new ideas, new thoughts, things that help them reach that better version of themselves. Um, And then from there, we realized that the hobbyist, the person that has a creative idea that doesn't necessarily fit into the normal thing, they need a space to do their thing too. And so showing them how they can be creative and run a business and, manage the things that they don't like, but be able to still do a lot of the things they do like. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was really just understanding here's how to score a lead, here's how to, move the lead from this stage to this stage. And then by the time Sevenality really was, up and running and rearing its head the right way, it became a lot easier because we know, oh, if we travel to like 3 or 4 WordCamps, there's a good chance we're going to reconnect with, an old friend or whatever, or meet a new friend. And there's a good chance that we're going to come home with at least 1 or 2 projects. Not that we're going there for that, it just worked that way out. We get into one conversation and they're like, oh, hey, we're trying to find a designer for something. You're like, oh, well, have you tried this or have you worked with this person? They're like, oh, yeah, they're booked out. This one doesn't know anything in terms of like being able to do this. They're print design. We need a web design. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh, we do web design. What's the problem? And you start talking. And you're like, oh, you guys would be perfect for this, right? And it's like you have a little interview on the spot almost. Um, and no one's trying to look and say, oh, I need you to do 10 GitHub pull requests before you can work for us, right? So yeah, it became a lot easier to just really look and say, who are we trying to serve? How are we serving them? And once we step outside of the WordPress space, it becomes a lot different. People aren't as loving. People aren't as empathetic. Um, People can be a little bit cold and rough around the edges. But you learn that everyone has that battle that they're fighting, and everyone has something that they're trying to accomplish. And it doesn't change the fact that you have skills that they need, and they have a problem that you are kind of excited to solve based on the skills that you have. And so yeah, communicating to that became a lot easier. And then it just kind of, I don't know, after that, it's really hard to say how it evolved. Things just kind of clicked in the place where it's like, you have your marketing funnels, all the other stuff, and you just roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I like a lot what you said about just like knowing your customer. I think it's probably like everyone knows that at this point. There's probably not a lot of people listening who are like, I need to know who my customers are in order to like find those kind of customers. But I think that there's a huge difference between does your customer serve, is your customer like a B2B uh, uh, organization or business that serves startups that are, making maybe like $50,000 a year and really starting out, or are they serving $1 million, $2 million a year businesses that are still not huge businesses, but they have a budget. And like, this is like, those are really different kind of clients. So just like knowing who you're catering to is going to totally determine how you target those people. So I pick that out of what you said, which is important as well. It sounds like the two big areas for referrals for you are, or the two biggest like lead generation areas for you are referrals and just like WordPress community, being active in the WordPress community and cultivating your network there a little bit to find either referrals or working with people in the WordPress space. I'd be interested even to dive a little bit more into that referral thing because you mentioned kind of everyone knows like referral is a way you can get new customers, right? One of your customers says, "Hey, they're great. I have a friend. Like, go tell my friend that you should go work with Sevenality." But I think there's more ways you can make that easier to make that referral happen. And you were kind of talking a little bit about that. Are there any ways at Sevenality that you make referrals easier for people? I feel like I have some ideas rolling around my head, but I just wanted to first see
I
like
do.
how do you guys make referrals a little easier?
I've gotten creative with that over the years, right? So one of my favorite ones was
Yeah, I'm
like,
sure you've tried some stuff that has worked and tried some stuff that hasn't worked. And so any of it, I'd love
yeah.
to hear about the experience
So
of
the
it.
things that have failed are anything that involves those what was it, BNI groups where it's like you come in with 2 leads or you refer someone and it's kind of those lead generation groups. Those have not worked for me.
Is it like a Facebook group or like a Slack group or something?
Almost kind of like a Facebook group, but these are like pre-chamber type groups. In some areas they call them BNI, I think it
Hmm.
is. Business Networking
Yeah,
International
I
or
never
something
heard of them
like
before.
that, right? And they're really weird because they're like, oh, they only let certain people in based on industry. So if I do design, but I happen to do design for like marketing people, and somebody else comes in and they do like advertising and whatnot, they'll be like, oh, there's competition there. But to me, it's like, no, that's synergy. That's where I get to focus on design, they get to focus on ads, and we could work together. So that was the first thing I didn't like about those situations. Second, every week they would make you bring like 2 or 5 people, and that's the referral that you give. 9 times out of 10, the names that you got from someone else, they had no prior relationship with them. So it was like a cold lead. So it's like, okay, you're just basically Googling and handling me cold leads, right? So what
Yeah, it
we
feels like there's a
did,
lot of room for spammy stuff happening there.
yeah. So what we did was we looked at that and we're like, all right, cool. Initially, when most businesses start out, it's friends and family that they're working with, right? Um, we didn't really want to do that because friends and family expect a lot of discount. I don't really believe in discounting things because there's the appreciation side where it's like, oh, I didn't really have to pay much for that, or I got it at a discount. Like, I don't value it as much, right? And so I really wanted to work with people that value our process, that value what design can do. And so what we did was whenever we'd have a client come in that matched like a really nice client profile, what we would do is if there was an objection about price, if there was an objection about, something else, we would say, hey, we'll knock off X amount if you refer to us by the time we hit the third or, second or third project waypoint, 2 new people, right? If we close one of those people by the time the ending of this is done, you get this discount. And so what it did was we had a very solid client profile. They loved the fact that they could get a discount off of something. Um, some of them even got projects for free because they referred a bunch of people that also matched that nice profile. Um, and it worked great. And then after a while, you're like, wow, you don't even know where a referral is coming in because it's like this person just said, oh, go talk to this person. And then they pop up later and it's like, oh, yeah, did so and so talk to you? All right, cool. I'm ready to start a project now. And you're like, oh, okay. Um, this is going to be overwhelming. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, it was really great. I would say within like the first 2 or 3 years, we grew exponentially. Like it wasn't a problem at that time. Um, but I will say, depression and all those other things kind of jump in there and cause problems. But it still works to this day. Like hands down, referrals make up a good chunk of our business, which I'm shocked. Not because it's like, oh, people are still referring people. It's just kind of like, oh wow, I can say every month 1 to 2 people may come in from a referral. Now it's a lot more predictable. Um, so yeah, there is a way to make referrals predictable in your business. It just takes some time, uh, but you got to get creative too. So
Yeah, I mean that's a cool idea. It's kind of like a referral based payout system that gives you a discount on your project, but it's also time bound. So it's like by this time you give a referral, then it kind of it pushes people a little bit to be like, okay, I guess I really should check out like my contacts today, as opposed to like I can kind of do this whenever. It kind of sounds to me like an affiliate based systems, like, but it's specifically for customers. It's more like a referral based system, and there's no like cash payout, but or commission payout, but there's like the discount off your current projects, and if someone's paying $10,000 for a project, hey, for a couple people over, it can be 9,000. Like that sounds like
yeah,
an easy
you could
thing to
save a
do.
good
And
chunk of
oh, if
money.
one of those people signs up, it's 8,000. Yeah, I can see how that could work. So yeah, cool. That's like a pretty creative way to do things. I'm sure that you had to tinker around a little bit while you were trying out that referral method to say like, oh, do I need to make this time bound? Like, how do I make how do I do the math in the back end to make sure that I'm still profitable on these clients. Obviously, with the free clients, maybe not so much. But if they're referring 10 good leads to you and five of them sign up, then totally makes sense because their profit's coming from those five referred clients. But did you have to do a little like kind of back of the napkin math before you felt comfortable like giving people discounts for referring folks over?
Yes. A lot of the back of the napkin math, actually. And so here's the other side to this. Um, I'm a very strategic person. And so if I am giving out a discount or something, usually there is a way. Because if you think about it, money, currency, it's just whatever we assign the value to. Um, so if there is, let's say, an introduction that would be super valuable for me, and I know this person carries the weight to make that introduction, um, I'm willing to bet for that, right? If there is a leapfrog situation where if we finish this project and of course we get a great review from it, um, this work is out and about and people are seeing it and relating it back to us, um, it gives us a great boost in terms of brand positioning, brand strategy, right? And there may be cases where, I'll say to someone, hey, I get your financial situation isn't really that, perfect. It may not match our ideal budget, but you have a drive where all you need is this little thing to get over the obstacle and you'll be fine after that. And I'll be honest with you, there's actually a site that we did probably 7, 8 plus years ago that to this day still refers people to us. They haven't redesigned it, haven't had to do anything to it because they loved it. It was very simple. We worked well with their illustrator and they were like, hey, they will actually call us periodically and be like, hey, are you still getting, traffic from it? I kept the link at the bottom, like, just because we gave them a good experience. And so there are a lot of things where it's not always about the money, um, but it is always about the value. Like, value is relative. Let's say to a kid, a cookie could be supremely awesome, right? Like, I'm getting a cookie. To an adult, it's like, really, you're just giving me one cookie? That's it? Like, you feel like I don't deserve more than one cookie? And so, yeah, you have to understand the context of where your value is, how it's being dispersed and, received and all those things. Um, and then there are just some times where it's like we'll do work for a nonprofit and we're like, we get it. Um, it's small, they're trying to do something, and we're trying to test out a new process, a new software, a new whatever. And we'll just be upfront and be like, hey, this may be a beta program that we're running. This may be something here. We're trying to do this, and you're trying to do this. Can we put them together and both come out the end and do something else? Um, Kind of same with what we're doing right now with a like our brand development platform. It's been internal for so long, and then over the past, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years, it's becoming a little bit more external. And so, in order to do that, we have to run a lot of, let's say, training classes. We have to do a lot of research and development. And the things that we're doing to build out like this curriculum, we can't just say, oh, we're going to charge you full price for it because we don't even know the results that are going to come out of certain aspects of it. And so we'll run a very, well put together cohort system of here's what we're tracking, here's what we're trying to do, and those people may get a discount for it. Then at the end, when we're done, it's a different story. Um, they end up getting full price. Like everybody has to pay full price after that. You should have signed up during the beta, that kind of a thing. And so we're able to leverage a lot of, let's say, growth tactics or pricing tactics with, you know, different objectives that we're trying to meet. Um, Make it fun, make it interesting. And I mean, we've bootstrapped our company, 2 or 3 different product lines. Um, Not just web development stuff. And I mean, it works the same way. You have a strong community, you understand the value, you get to know the people you're trying to serve. Um, and it becomes a lot easier. Like for, I think every hour of research that you put into a project, it saves you 10 hours of development. So why wouldn't I do the research and say, all right, I'm going to
Right.
give myself, 15% of this total project is research time. All right. That means once this 15% is used, cool. Everything else from here is learning time, implementation time, re what is reiterating on what we've learned, right? That's what it's about. So yeah, makes life easy.
Yeah, cool, man. And I think that the you touch a little bit on the work you're doing with this lovable brands program.
Yes, sir.
If there's anything else you wanted to chat about that, I have that on my list of kind of like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. And it sounds like it's kind of gone from internal to somewhat more external, as maybe a new product line for you or a new product that you're potentially offering in the future. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes. So this is also where the WordPress community comes in and is amazing, right? So when I started this and I'm like, all right, cool, I want to do branding and I start talking about this, I didn't realize I had notebooks upon notebooks of stuff that I was writing and like testing different module or, stuff out on. And then one night I'm sitting and I'm starting to bring more of it out into the public. I'm, doing the local business incubators, not really gaining as much traction. And I'm like, maybe I should give up. No, no, no. One meetup, I end up meeting John Maeda, and it blew my mind. And I was like, it was wild because the list is there, and they're like, yeah, Matt Mullenweg's coming, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And they start naming off, all the other cool developer people, and then, Buddy goes, John Maeda. And so I pull out my phone, I Google it, and I'm like, this John Maeda? And he's like, yeah, you know him? And I'm like, this is like a design person's dream right here, right? If you've done anything with design thinking, with, computational, anything, you're like, all right, cool. When I tell you my hands were sweating buckets, like I had paper towels in my hands clenched up like this, right? And my hands would not stop sweating. Like I was that nervous about this. And so I'm talking to him and he's like, oh, so how are you in the WordPress space? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a designer. And he's like, interesting. And so we start talking a bit more. And then he gives me this challenge, right? Whatever I'm doing with Lovable Brands, 10 times it. And I'm like, all right, cool. He's going to forget about this conversation. Da, 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 da. We end up reconnecting again in WordCamp Miami. And he has this whole conversation again and starts going deeper into it. And so, Lovable Brands, for those that don't know, is a way for creative people and non creative people to communicate and build things that they enjoy. Being in this space, the hardest thing ever is communicating with creatives. We either will tell you no, we will look at you strange, or we will be like, wow, this person just doesn't know what's happening here. Why are they having this conversation with us? And then the other side, it's like the person is looking and saying, well, how do I even get this idea across? Like if I say make it pop, I'm going to get laughed at, right? Um, and so digging deeper into it, I realized it actually was a framework to help people to create more of the things that help us aim upward. And by that, it looks at the individual. And actually, let's do a quick exercise right here, right now. As an individual, we have the things that we value. We have the things that we want to achieve. But then we also have the things that are they're so special to us that we try to find a way to incorporate it into everything, right? And that little space right there, whatever energy we pull from there, that's kind of like the lovable core or like your quantum lovable state, right? Because if it's design or if it's development, even if it's brewing beer, you'll find a way to talk about that thing in something else or try to map the world out with that understanding. And so, looking at the individual, how does the person practice empathy? Then it jumps into the community portion, which is the one that I really love. And it's really looking at what are the areas that you're involved in, what are the areas that you could probably create stuff in or create a community in, that bridges the individual to, let's say, the industry. Most people look at the industry being the thing that defines the individual. In this case, we're defining the individual. We're helping them curate and create communities. that impact them as the person with the skill set in the industry. And so what this did in like the past, I'd say the top three case studies that came out of this, one was in intellectual property law, the other was in public equity and venture capital, and the other one was just, general everyday people trying to create something cool. Um, and each one of them had this weird light bulb moment where it just, it was contagious. It literally was so contagious. I was like, did you guys study something else? Because I don't think this is what I gave to you right here. And what they found was having empathy, especially to oneself, made it easier for them to be more forgiving, not only to themselves with mistakes, but lower the amount of burnout that they would have in doing things around groups of people and pushing their ideas forward. Because they were more excited. They were less worried about failing. They were less worried about what other people thought. And they were more focused on being able to create things from that place where they just saw the world, right? Like they just wanted to help the world do these things, and that was their skill set in doing it. But they also had, let's say, two or three other skills that could complement it, right? And so, yeah, it was just a way to organize and build a bridge between creatives, non-creatives, or you as a person who feels that you aren't creative and the part of you that is creative to be able to communicate with the world. Um, and so, yeah, now it's getting ready to do the fun WordPress part of building out the learning management system. For that, we're using LearnDash. We're fusing it with WP Fusion, of course, Gravity Forms, and all that other good stuff. Um, but it's going to be a gamified experience where you get to learn about personal branding. You get to see how it relates to building a business brand. If you're not building a business brand, how you operate within someone else's business as an employee, contractor, vendor, but really honing in on just sticking to what you value, sticking to practicing more empathy, developing the soft skills that are transferable between any category that you go into. Um, and yeah, having fun along the way. That's literally all it's about.
Cool, man. That's a great place to wrap up. I'm excited for that. You definitely got to let us know when that launches so we can help share around and so we can check it out. Our team can check it out. Why don't you tell folks where they can find you online, website, social media, all that stuff?
So I'm mostly active on Twitter. So if you're looking for me, it's DSMY or davidyarde.com. Remember, there's that silent E after the yard in there. Um, yeah, that's pretty much the best places to find me. Um, Newsletter, that's rebooting in the beginning of the year, but Twitter, if you want to get a quick question in or be like, hey, I have a thought or whatever, hit me with a DM, hit me with a tweet, hit me with a fleet, and we're good.
Oh man, now we're diving into stuff that I don't even know about. I think I heard about this. Like, is Twitter turning into Snapchat, turning into Instagram, and yeah, all that stuff. So, yeah, I just gave you a follow on Twitter, so I'll be checking out, and I hit that little alarm button, so I'll be checking out some of the tweets and stuff. Last but not least, I always ask my guests to ask our listeners for a little iTunes review. So, if you wouldn't mind asking our listeners for a review on iTunes, I'd appreciate it.
For sure. So you guys have been listening to this podcast. It's absolutely amazing in the space and what it does and the people it brings together. So head over to iTunes, leave a review, and share why it has been so amazing to you.
Awesome, man. Yes, if people go to wpmrr.com/iTunes, it redirects you right there. If you're on your iPhone, you can leave a nice review in the iTunes app. And if you're listening on YouTube right now, or if you're watching/listening on YouTube, you can just open a new tab, wpmrr.com/iTunes, and give a little review. If you leave a comment, you can just leave 5 stars. That's cool. But if you leave a review, tell us something you learned from this episode. We can send a screenshot to David and say, thanks, man. Appreciate it. It also helps us to know what new episodes, new content we should do. We'll obviously do a lot more around the intersection of design and development if we get a few nice reviews for this show, for this episode. So, feel free to go and leave a review there. If folks are new listeners to the show, we've got like 120 or so previous episodes. If you're having a specific challenge right now, go to the search bar, wpmrr.com/podcast. Do a search. Pricing, MRR, Fortune 500. There's tons of different searches you can make to find an episode that hopefully will help you with your specific challenge you are having right now. If you have questions for us at the show, Christy and I do like to do the occasional Q&A episode, so you can shoot questions to yo@wpmrr.com or just hit me up on Twitter at Joseph H. Howard. Twitter is probably better. I probably check Twitter more than I check email. I'm not great with my email, but I'm a little better on Twitter. That is all for this week's episode of the podcast. We will be in your podcast players again next Tuesday. David, thanks again for being on, man. It's been real.
Appreciate it, man. It's been a great chat.